Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Craig. I am your host, Craig DeLuz, here with the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is where we talk about firearms, Second Amendment, as it relates to pop culture, politics, news, you name it. So we very much appreciate you guys being a part. Please make it a point to like and share this video feed. Let your friends know where they can go to talk about the grassroots, where they can talk about the fight on the ground for our right to keep and bear arms. Also, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page. Let's let those, those social media outlets who would seek to suppress our voice, let's make sure that they know that, we shall not be moved, or we're going to move ourselves. Anyway, thank you so much once again for tuning in. So let's get into today's topic. And it kind of fits because it kind of works with the whole idea of free speech and rights. So a lot of you have heard the story about the young men who, two young men, they are high schoolers in the state of New Jersey, Lacey Township to be exact. Decided one weekend that they were going to go to the range with their families. While at the range, they decided to take a couple of photos and post them to Snapchat and label the photos, fun time at the range. Well, now, the interesting thing that in fact occurred afterwards was these two individuals were summarily suspended from school for this post. Now, mind you, they weren't engaged in any illegal activity. While it may be illegal for someone under the age of 18 to own a firearm or possess a firearm, but they are allowed to possess one while in the company of an adult. And so they were at the range doing a very legal thing. They were not on school time. They weren't on school property. And they didn't use any school resources to post the photos. However, Lacey Township actually had a policy that, that specifically made it, a zero tolerance policy, which said that you would be, what's the word I'm looking for, disciplined if you owned or possessed a firearm at any time or any place, if there was ever any evidence that you had ever owned or possessed a firearm, meaning that these individuals, they were in violation of school policy and therefore should be suspended. Well, needless to say, there were a lot of people who took issue with this particular policy.
What's the difference between a gun and a knife? None. So if my husband and I want to take my kids fishing and they're seen in a picture holding a fillet knife, are you going to tell me that my kids are going to be suspended for holding that fillet knife? Because that's all that gun is. That's all that gun is a piece of equipment.
We have members in town. We have members who send their children to this school. And we're gravely concerned about what we've learned over the last week about what has been happening in Lacey Township.
But who believed that this was good policy? It was in your handbook.
See, that's what was so funny was these school board members had absolutely no idea that this was their district policy. See, I sit on a school board, and I know that we have entities and attorneys that send us policies that are that legally we are obligated to have, and we're supposed to review those policies and approve them and yada, yada, yada. And I can tell you that 99.9% of the time, the policies are just, they're legalese, legal mumbo jumbo. But too often you wind up with these sorts of anti-American, anti-liberty, nonsensical things that wind up in policies. And so what I have come to find is that I have to read these policies very, very closely. Otherwise, you wind up with nonsense like this. You saw the guy ask, well, hey, who believed that this was a good policy? Well, clearly nobody thought it was a good policy, or at least nobody on the board would admit that they knew that this was a good, or that they believed that this was a good policy. And if they thought it was clearly they thought it was a bad policy, because in the end, they would wind up changing that policy. Check it out.
A New Jersey school district revises a policy. First, it bans students from having guns anywhere on or off campus. The policy at Lacey now restricts gun possession to on school grounds or on a bus. It comes after 2 students were suspended for Snapchatting at a gun range, and many residents were defending those students.
I don't think there was any harm in it. I just think they were a couple of kids at a range, right? That's where they went. And they weren't like pointing guns at anyone. They were just doing what they were going to do at a range.
A Lacey school board meeting is taking place tonight.
Yeah, well, needless to say, that that school meeting did take place. And like you said, what's interesting about this is that clearly they knew it was a bad policy because they changed the policy. Before the meeting, they wound up changing the policy, so they knew that it was a bad idea. And once again, now keep in mind, this is the same school district that had another student in the district, required them to remove a sticker from the window of their car because it had a picture of a gun on it, because the sticker may have offended somebody. Well, no, maybe they were just scared. Maybe they were worried that the sticker was some sort of a sticker gun, and the sticker was going to jump off of the car and was actually going to attack their students and faculty. I mean, this is the stupidity that we are dealing with. That a sticker or a Snapchat, a photo, which depicts someone supporting or exercising a constitutional right, a constitutionally enumerated right, is considered offensive and ought to be banned speech. Well, needless to say that the change in policy in and of itself was not enough to satisfy a lot of folks. And I'm glad to see them standing up.
I'd like to see 4 things happen. I would like to see the board specifically admit that they've made an error and they've done something they shouldn't have. They do not need to disclose the students' names or their privacy to do that. To apologize for that error. To make a statement that they are going to aspire to no longer violate the Supreme Court decision or the constitutional rights of the parents or the children. And the person or people who made that decision should resign or be terminated effective immediately.
Yes, I would love to see all of those things happen. And with all due respect to the folks there at Lacey Township, I doubt that any of them will happen. And that's unfortunate because, first of all, they're not going to admit wrongdoing because that would put them in a legally untenable position. We live in such a litigious society that oftentimes simply admitting that you made a mistake is not enough, and even rectifying that mistake is not enough. Unfortunately, you're going to have people out there who are going to sue for lots of money, and so they're not going to do that or admit as a board that they made a mistake. The other thing that you're probably not going to see is you're probably not going to see the administrator resign. I find it hard to believe that individual, knowing the environment in which they were in, knowing kind of the hotbed that firearms are, the Second Amendment is an issue. I find it very difficult to believe that that principal or the administrator didn't check with higher ups to make sure that the decision that they were making was going to be in line with what the district would desire, which quite possibly means that if they did, then you're probably looking at a superintendent or an assistant superintendent who's going to be in trouble, who's probably going to have to resign their job. And quite frankly, I don't necessarily see that happening. I think an acknowledgement that they're going to do everything that they can to protect the rights of their students, I think going forward is something that's reasonable and something that I think that district can give into. But I think this speaks to a larger thing, and you guys always know, we keep saying this. This is a fight for civil rights. Here it is, you have individuals who are exercising their constitutional right, their right to bear arms, and because they utilize their free speech, their First Amendment rights, in order to support their Second Amendment rights, their right is their right to free speech is being infringed upon. Why is their right to free speech being infringed upon? Because they want to infringe on their right to keep and bear arms. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the environment in which we are currently functioning, which is why it is so important, one, that we keep talking about it once as a civil right. Because if they can shut down our right to keep and bear arms, if they can shut down free speech or due process, if they can shut that down, then they're going to go after free speech. Then they're going to go after due process. Then they're going to go after right against unreasonable search and seizure. Then they're going to go after our private property rights. All of those things are at risk if we do not stand up for our constitutional right to keep and bear arms, and that we are vocal about it, and that we vote people in who support it, and that we vote people out who don't. These people are so scared of the truth that they can't even allow people to even say, yes, I own a gun. I get people all the time at the Capitol, staffers who come up to me, they're real quiet. They're like, hey, I just want you to know that I own a gun, and I enjoy and I believe in my right to keep and bear arms, and thank you for what you do. They have to like whisper it to me, like they're ashamed. Like they're afraid that their colleagues will find out and will ostracize them. How dare they be an evil gun owner? But that's the world we're living in right now, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're having to deal with. And that's why it's important that you share these videos, that you talk to people about it, that you let people see, help people to see the absurdity of what we are having to deal with. Because more and more what you're going to start to see is you're going to start to see common sense people. And here's the thing. I know that there are people on the far side on our side. And there are people that are on the far side on the other side. But ultimately, most people are somewhere in the middle. And honestly, they don't know. And they don't know because they're not getting all the information. We know the mainstream media is not getting them all the information. As you can clearly see from this incident, that in academia, they're not getting all of the information. And politicians, well, we know they're not getting any information from politicians. So it's up to us. It's up to us to educate our neighbors, to educate our family, to educate our friends. And once again, just to provide them information that they're not getting otherwise. That's what the Firearms Policy Coalition is all about. Yes, we are about advocacy. Yes, but the number one place where we need to be advocating with the people that we know within our spheres of influence. Because ultimately, politics is simply a reflection of society. We need to change society. We need to impact society in media, in education, in academia, and in politics. Right? As we influence there, then we start to see things change. I am proud of these kids for being willing to stand up and say, hey, you know what? I'm out having a good time. I'm exercising my constitutional right. Hey, hats off to them. Let's support them. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please remember to like and share these videos. Let your friends know about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. Stay free.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.